How can any one religion claim to have the absolute exclusive salvific truth? Isn't that intolerant? It's a big claim, and can come off as egotistical that someone could make a metaphysical assertion with certainty like that. Today, we're going to talk about the problem of exclusivity in Christianity. Hey, I'm Bailey.
I'm Michael.
And I'm David.
And welcome back to the Facing the Gates podcast. Last time we talked about the Old Testament in 2 parts and all that jazz.
And it was fire.
And it was pretty great, and you should go listen to them if you haven't already, or else we'll be real sad. Anyway, today we're talking about the exclusivity of religious belief. You know, as I mentioned in the intro, isn't it intolerant for a religion to claim that they have the one single absolute truth and that all the other ones are wrong? We're kind of getting into the areas of where I think the objections to Christianity are kind of running out of steam, and they're getting into the less interesting, less good objections, but this is still an objection obviously modern American people have.
Yeah, and it's still a question to ponder and discuss.
Right.
And
it's worth discussing. It's just not the best one out of... I think the other ones that we've discussed hold at least a little bit more weight, but it's still worth talking about.
Yeah, it holds weight to somebody, and that's what matters.
Right.
And that's what we're here to talk about.
Yeah. I mean, and also with this idea, it makes sense why people would have some issues with it, because everyone's trying to say they're right.
Yeah, well, it's...
Everyone's right, and no one wants to be wrong, so therefore everyone's wrong.
It's about, well, it's and this is probably a deeper rabbit hole, but this is about, you know, tolerance and the idea of loving and accepting, meaning loving and accepting of everyone and everything that they believe and do, which is kind of contradictory, but we'll talk about that as we get into it. So Christianity is quite explicit about its exclusivity. Jesus even said, quote, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father except by me," end quote. And John 14:6. So first of all, do you think this is a valid or important objection to make?
I think for a lot of modern people it is. Because we're always getting hounded on in daily life that, whether it's politics, religion, work, everyone says they're right, and at the end of the day, we're all just confused and looking for answers. And when everyone's saying they're right, it's easy to go, well, maybe all you guys are fucking wrong. Everyone thinks they're right, and none of you guys want to talk or conversate. You just want to shove that you're right down my throat. So I do get where this, in modern era, especially, where this is a more prevalent idea in question.
Yeah.
So I think it is valid.
I think that's a fair way of framing it. Generally, the way I hear the objection is all religions are the same, therefore they're all equally wrong. And that's usually used as a scapegoat excuse to not look into any of them.
Or someone that doesn't really have that much nuance, because...
Yeah, because you can break anything down and it'll be the same, not to cut you off.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I was getting to. The fundamental ideas of most religions is kind of, don't be a dick, try to better yourself. And then where it splits off is you become one with everything, or you go to heaven.
Yeah, well...
A lot of them.
But you can
the most popular ones, at least.
You can break down a car into the simplest terms.
And it'll be the same
thing that transports you.
Same thing as a horse.
Yeah, but you can also, and we've kind of talked a little bit.
It's all about nuance.
Yeah, well, we talked a little bit about other world religions in previous episodes, but we've kind of established that they're not all the same, and some of them are more developed and nuanced than others, and some have...
Yeah, and some are nuanced in different ways.
Yeah.
Like the Western religions tend to be more
metaphysical, and the Eastern religions tend to be more, I guess, esoteric, kind of.
Yeah, versus like the abolishment of the self versus the embracing of the self plus reaching like a higher deity instead of kind of fusing with the earth in a way.
Yeah.
But
So-
I mean, the main thing's don't be a dick and be nice to each other for the most part.
And the reason I was bringing up that you can break anything down to make anything sound like anything is because that's not what it's about. You can do that with almost anything.
Mm-hmm.
What matters is the nuances and how things are gone about and the message at the end, the overarching thing.
Mm-hmm.
And to simplify things takes away the heart of it.
Yeah, we're definitely going to talk about that later.
Yeah. But that's all I really have to say about that part.
Yeah. So when we're talking about the quote unquote issue of exclusivist claims of, Christianity or whatever, all worldviews make exclusive claims, whether that's religious or non-religious. Some are just more implicit than others. So, for example, if someone's worldview says that Christianity is wrong, that itself is an exclusive claim which needs to be backed up with evidence and proven to be more likely. So, anyone who the ironic thing about this objection is the person that makes this objection is literally applying that to their own worldview.
Yeah.
So, I guess that's it. We're done. No, I'm just kidding.
We got a lot more to dig into, people. Don't worry.
Yeah. So, like I mentioned in the Old Testament episodes, it would only be egotistical to make an exclusive claim if it were an over-exaggeration. But if Christianity were true, we would simply expect it to make an exclusive claim. So let's go ahead and break down this objection into the different forms that it might take. One of those is that we can't know that God exists, so we shouldn't bother trying to figure out which exclusive claim is true. I'm going to go ahead and turn that over to Michael because I'm sure he's got some thoughts brewing.
My issue with the thing is we can't know that God exists is, to a lot of people, like if I talk to you, does God exist?
Yeah.
Have you had experiences that made you believe that?
Yes.
Exactly. And by saying that, I'm taking away from your experience. Whereas David is going to be on the polar opposite. And by saying that he doesn't exist, I'm just siding with one side.
Well, go ahead and ask those same questions to David.
David, does God exist?
Nope.
Have you had experiences polar opposite?
Right.
And so by saying we can't know that God exists, really, to me, as the agnostic, that takes away from the personal experience. That's decrediting someone for something you can't do or see. Just because I wasn't there to witness it doesn't mean it's not true, or else all of history would be untrue because we weren't fucking there. We weren't there when George Washington went on the little fucking boat and attacked the German, I can't remember, mercenaries outpost. We weren't there when the Civil War broke out. Just because, say, David thinks something can't be true because he hasn't experienced it, doesn't mean it's not true. Correlation does not equal causation. And that's the biggest issue, in my opinion, with this. And then another thing is we're always searching and growing as people. And some people might not need to find or search for that. It might come to them. Some people like me do have to search. And some people, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It doesn't affect how they live their life. But by saying just because we can't prove it doesn't mean it doesn't exist is kind of bullshit. Because that is decrediting a lot of people's experiences from when the world started to now.
Yeah, then you could be like the ultimate edgy atheist and say that, well, all religious people are just crazy, and their experiences are invalid because they have some kind of mental delusion that makes them believe in God.
And so what? Let them live their fucking
As long as
life
you're
and
not
don't be a dick
about it. I mean, there is.
Well, I mean, there are people that.
At the end of the day, that's all I can say to those people is, if you want me to respect your opinion, respect your experience as a human, and respect you, respect my experience, respect my trauma, respect my triumphs. And that's all I can really say to shit like that. Because it's weird, because in this room we respect each other's experiences, whether or not we've lived them, whether or not we believe in them. We respect that. And I think a lot of the issue is, especially where we're at in the world, is a lot of the Christians don't respect the non-Christians in this area, and a lot of the non-Christians don't respect the Christians in this area, and don't respect our experiences as humans.
Yeah.
And our life journey.
And we can say that
And
also
so-
about like the political spectrum as well.
Exactly.
That's why we
To say
can't have
the
conversations
least.
about these things.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, thankfully, that's why we're able to do this podcast, is because we don't,
Yeah.
hate each other.
we
Politically.
can have heated discussions, but then it's like, you want to play like some video games or something?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why
Check
we
out
can.
this song.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I respect your experiences, and I love you as a person. I respect David's experiences and love him as a
Yeah.
person.
Where like the argument about like, oh, everyone that believes in religion's delusional, I think that's like people taking, because unfortunately with mental health, the delusions of angels and spirits is a common trope. But people take that and like, oh yeah, everyone else is fucking crazy too. And it's like, no,
That's a slippery slope.
Yeah, your first
you're
Discredit-
taking one extreme just like another extreme and trying to correlate the extremes with the people in the middle.
And your
Yeah,
first
and also the one other thing about that is, like, technically speaking, there's more religious people in the world than not. So technically, the majority of people, according to that idea, have a mental delusion.
Yeah, even in America right now, it's about 40% of people don't go to a church. More so in our current generation than previous. Compared to the boomers, it's like 30% more. So boomers were like 10%.
Yeah, so if that kind of edgy atheist argument if somebody wants to make that argument, I can easily flip it back on them and say, well, actually, you're the one with the delusion because you're the minority.
Yeah.
But I mean,
but
obviously,
then that's
nobody here says that, but
yeah,
that's
but
just
then that's
something
just being
people
a
say.
dick to everybody.
Yeah, that's just a thing people say, and it's just like, well, if you're going to be that dismissive, then I can.
Well, because
I can play a game with that.
As we talked about, people speak through emotions instead of like thinking shit out.
Yeah.
Look at our political situations.
And to me,
Still
as
bully
someone
the president, though.
who struggles with mental health, that discredits the fuck out of my issues. David,
Yeah.
he doesn't discredit me when I'm in a manic state or a depressed state. He's there.
Yeah, and for
And
the
he
record, I don't
listens.
think any of us believe that belief or disbelief in religious ideas are a delusion.
Yeah.
We're just using that as an example.
Yeah, it's an example of like people taking that idea and pushing it towards generalization.
And if you...
Because it's an unfortunate situation that, like, for example, I've had to do it several times at my jobs.
Yeah. And if you are someone, or you know someone, who has dealt with mental issues and you say that shit, fuck you. And Christians who say being an atheist is a mental disorder, fuck you too. Fuck all y'all.
Yeah.
Because that is discrediting the trauma
Fuck
that
your
comes along with
close-minded
it.
ass.
And the human experience, which if you're an atheist, you're all about the human experience, aren't you?
Yeah.
So stop being a dick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting thing to be part of the wild ride of.
Yeah. And again, we all just need to do exactly what we're doing here and talk about it and understand where everyone's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, there are shitty people out there.
Don't be one of them.
Yeah. You don't have to associate with them. But maybe if you thinking someone's shitty, bring up some of these questions. Because you could change these questions to fit anything.
Yeah.
If you needed to.
Yeah.
And I think that's my biggest problem with the bringing up the God and angels and mental illness thing is, I struggle with that shit. I might end up that person.
Yeah.
That discredits my trauma and that discredits my illness on top of my beliefs.
Yeah.
And that discredits your beliefs. That discredits your beliefs. Whether or not we see it that way,
It's a write-off.
that's what it's doing.
Yeah. It's an excuse not to think about things.
But though, if someone, like for current climate, someone stormed an important building with delusions of that shit. If you know someone that's going through that shit, get them to talk to a mental health professional, please. But also make sure it's like legitimately that and not them just trying to figure shit out.
Yeah. Or someone
Mental health is important.
And there's a difference between someone being so engrossed in their religion versus someone who is legitimately mentally ill.
Yeah.
And that's all I have to say about that. Don't be a dick.
Yeah.
David's rule number 1.
Yeah. All right. So, we can't know that God exists, so we can't bother trying to find, or we shouldn't bother trying to find which exclusive claim is true. That's what we spent the last 10 minutes talking about, but I have a couple responses to that. First of all, isn't that an exclusive claim?
Dun dun dun.
By definition, belief is just as exclusive as disbelief. If you can't know God exists, and someone believes that God doesn't exist, why should I believe them? Has this person cracked the code and disproven God's existence? If someone wants to make the claim that God doesn't exist, that itself is an exclusive claim and a self-refuting objection to the existence of God. If someone wants to make the claim that God does not exist, in order for me to believe them, I need evidence. Not mere skepticism or doubt, I need evidence in order to believe that God does not exist. Also, the elephant in the room is the word no in this sense is elusive. What the objective usually implies is we can't know God exists in an empirical sense, though the problem there is the reasoning is fallacious. This gets into scientism, which is the idea that we can only know things if it is scientifically proven, and this has a self-defeating assumption. Because if you can't scientifically prove that the scientific method is valid, that is a philosophical claim that we assume to be true. You can't empirically verify the scientific method itself. So scientism it's kind of growing in popularity today and almost becomes like a religion for some people.
And on top of that, go back 50 years. There's a lot of shit science didn't prove then that you would say that we know now. They'd laugh at your dumb ass. I mean, it's all relative at this point. I'm a strong believer in science.
Right.
Maybe not for these things, but for a lot of things. And just because it isn't proven scientifically doesn't mean it's not right. It just means maybe they haven't got there yet.
Or
maybe technology hasn't got there yet. Maybe we as humans haven't got there yet.
Or maybe that's just the limit of science and you can't scientifically. The thing is, you can
limited to the physical realm.
You can, at least to some degree, look at science and say, well, the evidence kind of points towards the existence of God. And we talked about this with a previous episode, or at least alluded to it in the Origins of the Universe, when we talked about the universe having a finite starting point. That means that it started at a certain point, obviously. Prior to that being a thing, scientists thought the universe was just eternal.
Yeah.
And, obviously if something has a start, it has to have a cause.
Yeah.
And now, obviously, science isn't going to deduce that God exists, but that's at least what it seems to imply. And when, the Big Bang and the absolute origins of the universe was a thing that was kind of conceived of, scientists scrambled for decades trying to create alternative theories that showed that the universe is still eternal, and all these models failed. And the evidence shows that it did start at one point in time.
Yeah. And
so what's the cause of that? And that can lead to theistic conclusions, as we talked about in a previous episode. But science isn't going to make that assertion, because that's not what science does.
Science is about the physical realm.
if science doesn't have cold, hard proof that they can 110% prove, they're not going to make that assumption.
Yeah.
And
Like
some things you can't... Everyone's had a freak thing where you couldn't replicate it if you had to.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, like, for example, recently they've found, like, some part of, like, a hammer or something in a particle accelerator that's breaking the laws of physics, possibly. But they don't know yet, because they have to run the math and do the experiment several more times to figure out why is it doing that. So they're not laying down this is why until they have a 100% repeatable conclusion.
Yeah, and that's kind of the problem with, in my view, the problem with looking to science as the ultimate authority figure of knowledge, because that necessarily has a certain limit in terms of its knowledge.
It has to be repeated.
And to tie...
We're like the creation of a universe. It happens once.
Yeah, and to tie in...
At least from what we know.
To tie into the questioning science, y'all know how the anti-vaxxer movement started? Someone who has now defaulted on their claims of vaccines causing autism and shit like that.
I'm pretty certain it was a correlational study.
Created that to sell and manufacture vaccines without certain ingredients to try to make money.
And now,
science can be manipulated just like religion can be manipulated.
and now it's being
I'm pretty certain...
propagated by 12 people.
And the guys, just so you know, this may be incorrect information, so don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty certain I remember hearing in one of my psych courses I took that the reason the whole anti-vaxxer thing started was because there was a correlational study that showed there was a correlation between children who were vaccinated and children who had autism. But as we mentioned earlier in this episode, correlation doesn't equal causation, and that my professor used that exact situation to demonstrate. Guess what? There's also a high correlation between ice cream sales in the summer and murder. Mm-hmm. So that doesn't necessarily mean that because people are buying ice cream that they're also murderers.
Yeah.
That's just a correlation. So we can't always infer a causation there. So that's kind of, I think, where he was trying to say that came from.
A lot of that stuff also plays into sociological issues.
Yeah, and manipulation. Just like we talk about, say, Christian sectors that are manipulators. We talk about atheists that are manipulators. Anything can be manipulated however the fuck you want to manipulate it. Doesn't mean it's true.
Right. So beyond this, there are other ways of knowing things beyond science. We can use inductive reasoning to conclude that God exists, and we did this in some of our earliest episodes. We know that Jesus existed, and with a historical analysis, we can see that it's not impossible to believe in his deity or that he rose from the dead. Again, see our previous episodes for more on that. This is the closest thing, in my opinion, that we'll get to proving empirically that God exists, because he became a man, and we have historical documentation of it. All right, so now the next... Did you have a comment on that before I go on the next thing?
No, I done wore my heart on my sleeve and bled it out.
Gotcha. All right, so I want to talk about the elephant analogy, because a lot of atheists will make this. So the elephant analogy goes as follows. A group of blind men heard a strange animal called an elephant, or heard that a strange animal called an elephant had been brought into town, but none of them were aware of its shape and form. Out of curiosity, they said, "We must inspect and know it by touch, of which we are capable." So they sought it out, and when they found it, they groped about it. The first person whose hand landed on the trunk said, "This being is like a thick snake. For another one whose hand reached its ear, it seemed like kind of a fan. As for another person whose hand was upon its leg, said, the elephant is a pillar, like a tree trunk. The blind man who placed his hand upon its side said the elephant, it is a wall. Another who felt its tail described it as a rope, and the last felt its tusk, stating the elephant is that which is hard, smooth, and like a spear. So people will use this analogy to compare the world religions by saying that people claim to see the whole truth, but are like several blind people describing different parts of an elephant. They don't see the whole truth. So basically what they're getting at there is people see bits and pieces of it, and the whole truth isn't really unveiled until you put them all together, or maybe you don't even see the whole truth at all because maybe there's missing pieces or whatever.
It's all about perception.
So what do you think that's a fair analogy?
I think for a lot of people, as we've spoken, the kind of, I forget the term you might use, but kind of like the daylight Christians, where they just
like the nominal Christians?
Yeah, where they do it culturally, but
right.
They still have a belief. I see that more so as a jab towards like that kind of person, because they're not really looking into it. They're not doing their
due diligence, I guess.
Putting their time and effort into it. They're just going like, oh yeah, I know this. It's good. Yeah, that's a spear.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it all ties also to perception. I look at the elephant as different parts of the world in this analogy. Where you're at, the situations you're going through, and your lifestyle are going to determine your perception of the world. And so, therefore, a Christian in America, and a Christian in Europe, and a Christian in Asia, and a Christian in Africa might all four have a different idea of what their religion is to them. Doesn't necessarily mean they're wrong. It's just that's their perception. Like, I'm not going to tell each of those. Well, from an outside view, I can be like, dude, that's a fucking elephant. It looks like this. But I don't have the limits on my eyes and my perception that they do. And so, therefore, it is, as a human, it is my job to not be a dick and show them the rest of it. Allow their perception to grow and have a further outreach. Even if they may be limited, they can get a better cognitive idea. And so I don't necessarily look at that as an awful thing. It's just looking at it like, and we all can be these blind men. Mm-hmm. We all can have these moments where we think, oh no, we're totally right. And it's not that we're wrong, just we don't see the bigger picture. And so
you're saying we can all relate to that, but
our
the
job,
person making that claim is not necessarily in the right.
Yeah.
They're just as much searching through the elephant as anyone else.
And
kind of like those therapist pictures where it's like, oh, these are two people kissing. No, it's a tree.
Yeah. And as the outsider with perfect vision, if you don't reach out and try to show them a bigger picture, you're just as at fault.
Yeah. Or at least show them like your viewpoint.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is the whole point of this analogy is the analogy itself is an exclusive claim. Because how does one know that the religions don't see the whole truth unless the person that makes that claim does see the whole truth? So, I mean, if you're seeing that all these religions are fake, you know something that all the religions don't know.
Yeah.
And you've put all the pieces together, so you're making an exclusive claim.
And therefore, it is your job as an ambassador for the religion to have these conversations, to try to explore others' minds and have them explore your mind.
And that's why I say all people of any worldview make exclusive claims. This is just a more some are just more implicit.
Yeah.
So, if you're an atheist, you're going to say,
it's not even, there is no elephant.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're just going to say, like, you know...
Oh, you guys are all stupid.
Well, not necessarily. It's just... I lost my train of thought. But, basically, they're not really... An atheist is going to have exclusive claims, just like a Christian is.
Yeah, an atheist is a blind man just like everyone else.
You know, a Christian and a Muslim and an atheist all have certain prescriptions for the way that they're going to live their lives based on their worldview.
Yeah.
So for an
perceptions
atheist,
are different.
Yeah, for an atheist or for a Muslim or for a Christian to object to a certain worldview because of the exclusivity of it is turning a blind eye to the fact that they themselves have exclusive beliefs in their own worldview.
They themselves are a blind man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I was thinking of more as a person looking upon the blind man instead of being one of the blind men.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the problem with that analogy is the person that they claim to be an outsider who has this knowledge of what's right and what's wrong and what's true and what's not. Yeah. And it's like, well, if you had that knowledge, then I mean,
they know it's an elephant.
Yeah, you obviously know something that they don't,
and you're not trying to share.
You're claiming that they're blind and you're not. So why are you blind and they're not? Because for all you know, it could be the other way around.
Yeah, and see, that's why this ties back a lot of episodes. I respect you as a Christian because you might be the non-blind person, but you're trying to create a clarity and a better understanding of your beliefs, how you think in a positive, growing way instead of degrading until someone follows suit.
Yeah, thank you. I don't, well, because, and as a side note, the reason I try to discuss things like this is because I do see, and we're going to have actually the next episode is called The Problem of Christians. We're going to just
roast you guys.
Talk about certain problematic Christians. And then we're going to have a sequel to that episode where we really go in. But that's for a later point. But basically, you know, I see a lot of problems with certain Christian sects and certain types of Christians where they are just really dismissive of other viewpoints and other thoughts, and
or they're very exclusionary.
They're very exclusive and down looking at other people,
overly aggressive,
and I was
rapist.
That was, you know, during a time when I was kind of, I guess, a nominal Christian and having a faith crisis, or not really a faith crisis, but kind of working through things,
finding where you are in the world.
Yeah, and it turned me off when people had such egos about themselves, about their worldviews. And like, for example, my old church, you know, they're like, well, they're building a mosque up the road, and then everybody would just kind of groan or like have a disdain in their voice.
Them homosexuals.
And my thought in my mind was, they're just another religion like we are. How do you know that they're wrong? Now, granted, I've come full circle and learned a lot more.
Yeah, but you're still not going to judge them.
But I'm not going to... Yeah, I'm not going to...
You might want to go up there and have a talk.
Maybe. But, I mean, just the way... I don't know. The way they approached, like, that specific scenario and a lot of other scenarios...
And outsiders.
Yeah, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And I see a lot of Christians, and you know, a lot of times it's not in a public scenario where they're, you know, a lot of times it's one-on-one where it's me and this other person who might, you know, also be a Christian. They tend to be immediately dismissive of a, you know, say I bring up an objection that someone might have because I'm informed on what those objections are, and they might have a dismissive, you know, quip about it, and that is gross to me. Like, you need to be able to engage with this thought and have conversation and dialogue about this, because what if somebody has that objection and you just gave them that quick quip? That's not going to further the conversation
and
with
as
them.
an agnostic, I would rather you tell me, hey, listen, I don't have a good answer right this moment. I'm going to take some time. I'm going to think about this. I'm going to do some reading, some research, and I will get back to you. Please I'm not trying to dismiss you. I just don't want to give you a wrong answer.
Yeah, or at least like
I can
just
respect that, and
just
I can
tease it out and see where that objection's coming from and what exactly it is they think, because they might give you a vague idea, and then you might do some research and then realize that you're answering a question that they didn't even have.
Yeah, it's a little A
So
and B there.
it's like have a conversation, give what you can give at the time, and then if you have to do your homework and come back.
And
But
if you don't have an answer, don't lie.
Yeah, and
Don't
like,
dismiss other people.
as you said, though, as I see, if they're able to speak about that in private, one person to another, even if they don't just explicitly state it, like if someone might actually ask them that question or talks about something similar, they're going to have that mindset of dismissing it, even if it's not just straight into the ground. No.
yeah, and
It colors how they talk and communicate, and it muddies the image of what anyone should strive for.
And the other thing about this is, and maybe I'm, I guess, getting too much into what we're going to talk about in later episodes, but if you're not willing to discuss these topics, like say a Christian gets kind of frustrated or flustered when somebody has an objection like this, and then they just give short answers, like that just really shows that you're not confident in your beliefs, and it reveals that you haven't done your homework like you should have. And in today's culture and today's society, you have to do your homework, because you can't hold a view like Christianity and have not done your homework. I mean, if you stay sheltered in like a certain corner of the world, maybe you can get away with that.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, especially with the internet, you need to have done your homework on your own worldview.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like being political and only watching one news network.
Yeah. And
Or only reading one newspaper. You're going to obviously be biased towards something because you haven't done full research. You just trusted what others have told you.
yeah. And again, I would rather respect an honest moron than an intelligent person dismissing me or
Yeah.
lying to me.
Yeah.
Because the honest guy might have, let's say, a Christian who's not super well versed, but has had personal experiences that have led him to Christianity. I would rather him tell me about those and be honest with me and say, I don't necessarily know all the theological stuff. I might not be a super intelligent person on that stuff, but let me give you my personal story. Let me tell you why I feel this way in human senses.
Mm-hmm.
And I can respect that. I mean, I work with an absolute sweetheart of a woman who's been to hell and back.
Mm-hmm.
And she might not know all those answers, but her personal experience makes me go, she really believes in this, and this is how she lives her life.
Mm-hmm.
And I respect the fuck out of that, just as much as I respect the fuck out of you for doing your research, because both of you guys are honest, and both of you guys have your reasons for believing the way you do.
Mm-hmm.
And both of you guys have had your trials and tribulations and may have more to come. But I can't necessarily respect someone who, when I ask that question, hey, why do you believe this? And you dismiss me or you try to bullshit me, I'm not going to have that same respect or that same thought process of questioning in my own head, hey, they believe this way and these are their experiences. How do I feel about that? How does that affect my belief structure? Whereas someone who dismisses me makes me turn away from that. It's one reason I turned away from church at a young age.
Yeah, and that's why I like, and we'll get back to our topic in just a second because I'm about to wrap up here, but that's why I really like apologetics, which is partly what we're going into now. You could probably call this apologetics. Is
pretty much this whole kind of section.
Yeah, I mean, basically the Evaluating Christianity series, really every episode technically
Has some apologetics.
of this is apologetically involved, at least on my part. Because
If you watch on YouTube and you check the tag, it's there.
yeah, and some of them. But anyway, but like, you know, looking into apologetics for Christians who are out there, look into apologetics and study it, because it will make you a lot more confident in your conversations with other people, because you will know just your way about conversations and how to navigate certain things and how to think about certain things and open your mind to different views, and you won't be as dismissive. So when I'm coming into a scenario talking to you guys about stuff like this, I'm not intimidated, because I'm not afraid that you're going to throw things at me that I can't handle, because I'm at least somewhat familiar with a lot of the major objections people make.
No, also, if somehow we did, you'll be like, give me a week.
Yeah, and I have, like, you know, like we did in the Evaluating Christianity series, I have a positive case for my worldview, which I put forth.
Yeah.
And now I'm putting forth, like, a defensive case. So, and I'm not saying, like, you have to be, you know, you have to have a PhD in Christian apologetics in order to communicate with people, but at least do a little bit of homework.
I mean, you don't.
You got to think, at the end of the day, if you believe...
I mean, if you're selling your soul to a religion, like, I would think you would want to put a little bit of dedication into that.
I wouldn't say sell your soul. I'd say
that's
if this is your salvation, if this is your one-way ticket, you better put all your fucking coins in.
If you believe this is the absolute truth,
if you can put
why wouldn't you want to defend that and be able to defend that when you're having a conversation with someone?
Yeah. Or at least, even if that never happens, be well-versed for yourself. You can put 40 hours a week to pay your bills. Put in 20 minutes a day understanding yourself and your viewpoints.
Yeah.
Reading your Bible or your Torah or your Quran. Become more involved in yourself and your spiritual involvement. And if you're an atheist, still, you might not believe there is anything, but it's kind of the same thing. Research, understand, and look out for other worldviews and try to understand where they're coming from too.
Yeah. All right. So that was a nice little long spiel, but I think it was good. So here's another objection that really comes up very common. Religious belief is just a product of culture and history. If you were born in Turkey, you'd be Muslim. If you were born in India, you'd be Hindu. Christianity is no different.
I think in some ways, yes. As we've talked about, like the kind of Christians that we kind of, it's in the air if they're really Christian or not, but they do it culturally, like cultural Jews. They're raised in that culture, so they're going to act upon it,
and they still participate in a lot of the traditions, even if they may be agnostic or atheist.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's one reason why when I asked the question regarding if someone was born in, say, a different country and that's all they were raised around, how does that work in a worldview if they never had the shot to view the right religion? And I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but I remember talking about this same with babies, is God is a fair and just God. Mm-hmm. It's not I can't say what happens, but this is where my viewpoint leads.
Yeah.
And that really, I couldn't believe in a religion that doesn't give others a shot like that, doesn't give babies a shot, mentally challenged, people born in, say, India, where some of them will kill you for being Christian still.
I mean, heck,
in the Middle East,
China, if you
don't worship the government, you're dead.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're
Muslim or Christian, you're either.
Especially if you're Uyghur Muslim, you're sent to slavery.
They will either like kill you, or they're fully digital in their economy in China, and they can
your social credit score.
Yeah, they can like up your.
Yeah, there's a genocide happening right now. Right now, it's a genocide.
Yep, with the Uyghurs.
Yeah. And
hot topic.
As a Christian, it is your job to try to shed the light but also you can't reach everybody. Especially, it's easier to learn about religions in the modern world, but it's also harder.
Well, we also talked about a few episodes ago, like everyone believing and in the correct. That's a perfect utopia. That's never going to happen, regardless.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But between free will, societal pressures, and cultural pressures,
And
well, culture and societal fall into the same
mental.
Yeah, it's a fever dream.
Yeah. And
So with that one, I find that kind of argument has a little bit more kind of rooting, because I mean, we can see throughout different cultures, certain religions are more prevalent. Now, are some of them outliers? Some of them might be practicing different religions secretly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, heck, there's a secret kind of group of Greek pagans that are living more in secrecy because they're fighting for the right for religious freedom. They were just a few years ago
and I think
allowed to have a church.
And I think that is an issue that is more prevalent upon Western areas like America,
Yeah.
like the United States.
That's an objection that specifically Americans make.
Because we have that freedom. We may have societal pressures, we may have cultural pressures, but we have, and I'm going to say this to everybody, Christian, Islamic, Jewish, atheist, stop your shit. We are in America. We have the freedom to believe what we want to believe and what we truly believe. Let's not waste that. Let's accept that. Let's understand our fellow man. Let's grow as a people. I love Bailey even though he's different religion to me. I love my brother even if he's different religion to me. And that's what pisses me off about this question. Is it's a very outside of our culture. People die for this still. People are thrown in camps or just cut their fucking heads off. And so, yeah, it may be cultural, but you're in America. You have the freedom. You chose to be an atheist. You chose to be a Christian because it's what you believe. And so, yeah, it may be no different to you, but it's different to everyone here. And that's why I believe in my worldview, a fair and just God. I know this may be a little tangent off of the question, but kind of hit a string there.
Yeah. Well, my one of my responses is, and this is not aimed at David because he's not one of these super atheists, but I do have to, target the super atheists that do exist that make these kinds of objections. So if an atheist were to say to me, for example, the only reason you're a Christian is because you were born in America. Okay, sure. I would respond, the only reason they're an atheist is also because they were born in America. While it is true that religious belief can be stratified, that doesn't make a difference as to whether or not it is true.
Yeah.
Someone who makes this claim believes that they are right about it, and therefore no religion can be true just because it is a product of culture and history. But then they themselves are guilty of the same thing as the religious exclusivist, namely that their bias is informed by their culture. This objection, therefore, is nothing but an anecdotal avoidance. It's what is called a red herring.
Yeah. Oh, tying it together, you're exactly fucking right there.
Thank you.
And that kind of pissed me off, that question in particular.
Yeah. Though I guess we can all agree it's not necessarily that it's like, yeah, U.S. is going to be so far still mainly Christian, UK, a lot of Africa and whatnot. But it's really if you do your homework and you have a firm belief system regardless.
Yeah.
Now if you're going to get beheaded for that,
do what you got to do.
Yeah. Survive first. Survival comes first.
The Jewish and Islamic people will eat pork under severe circumstances to protect their life.
I mean,
I'm not going to judge them for that. Just like I'm not going to judge a Christian stuck in Saudi Arabia faking to be Islamic. I'm not going to judge an atheist in a predominantly Jewish culture for pretending to be Jewish while being an atheist. I'm not going to judge.
Yeah, there's a lot of like
I could
atheist and Christian people in Islamic countries that are too afraid to be to express their beliefs because they will be killed.
And that's
or like in Africa, people practicing their kind of native religions because I mean people get burned for being witches still.
Yeah.
And
also to tie kind of like do what you have to for survival. I mean, heck, Sikh doctors, a lot of them like shave their beards. You know, their beards like part of their religion. Mm-hmm. But they did it as they were doctors. They needed to mask up and do
protect themselves and protect the others. And my heart goes out to them because I can imagine losing something that significant to me, but they knew in their journey towards salvation and helping others and being godlike, that's what they had to do.
I shaved my beard like a year ago, and it was like I don't even have like a beard, but it's like, you know, it was a pretty emotional thing.
Yeah.
A lot of hair.
And so to sit here and belittle a religion because we have the freedom to, fuck that.
Yeah, it takes more nuance and understanding about that culture.
Yeah,
and their society.
Because me as an agnostic, it was terrifying to realize that at a young age. Because even 10 years ago, it was different. You would have got bullied at school. Could have got beat up. Could have got made fun of. And that's light punishment. We as a culture and a society have come a long way. We got a lot of issues to work out. But we are making progress to being, for almost every religion, more godlike and being more accepting and loving of our fellow man. And so to bring that issue up feels like a slap in the face.
You heard it here first, folks.
And that's coming from...
You're pissing Michael off.
I don't believe in any religion. I believe in a God.
And he hates simulation there. You can't forget that.
Yeah.
And we're just going to have
at least you're taking positions.
I have a lot of...
You've grown.
I have a lot of positions. I'm a very opinionated individual because I have the freedom to. Because I'm in fucking America. We got a lot of problems, so fuck, I got that freedom
America.
too.
Where's the kind of a hot take of Michael's like rage compilation?
Yeah. The reason you can be an atheist because you're in fucking America. The reason you can be a Christian, you're in fucking America. You can be whatever the fuck you want.
Just don't be a dick about it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty certain we've had this exact phrasing of a conversation like 3 times before.
Yeah.
All right. We need to probably need to move on. But the one last thing I wanted to say about that, about, you know, religion being stratified by culture and whatever.
And societal.
Christianity has also grown and spread in areas outside of where it has originated far more than other religions except maybe Islam. Christianity has its influences obviously in Americas and Europe, but also in African countries such as Nigeria, Democratic Republic of Congo, Ethiopia, and the Asian Pacific such as the Philippines and China. There's almost no place in the world where Christianity has not spread in some form. From 1910 to 2010, the number of Christians in the world has quadrupled. Only 10% of Christians live in a country where they are the minority. China is expected to have 300 million people who identify as Christian by the year 2030. If its growth continues without an government intervention, China will become the largest Christian nation in the world within our lifetimes. If you want more statistics like this, check out the 2 sources I have listed on this.
Yeah, counterpoint.
Go ahead.
A lot of those, especially in Africa, are due to imperialism and
colonialism.
Yeah.
And also,
right or wrong, but that doesn't change the fact of what I said.
I'm talking about, like, specifically this source that I'm looking at is where it's growing the most currently. Yeah. Like, those are the places in the world where it's growing the most.
The seeds were planted and they are growing.
Yeah.
And also,
I mean,
Which
it's-
I'm not going to say the effects of colonial and imperialism may be negative, but there can be, you can grow good out of it. But at the end of the day, just don't be a dick. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and also look at all, like, Christianity is both famously and infamously known for missionaries.
Yeah.
I mean,
They do a lot of good. They do a lot of bad.
there's a few missionaries that have went to, like, tribes that are legally protected by governments, did not have people because they've been so secluded that it's like when Europeans came to America, brought smallpox, it'd be game over.
But there's also missionaries that go out and do a lot of good.
Yeah, it's both positive and negative. It depends on the person.
And
Yeah.
depends on your viewpoint.
Yeah.
But
All right.
that doesn't take away from any of our points from before.
Yeah. All right. So we've got a couple more things we want to cover. And I'm going to go ahead and add a little disclaimer here for anyone listening. We're about to talk about politics a little bit, at least in vague senses, probably not specifically on certain issues, but we're going to talk about it in an abstract form. Religious beliefs should be kept private and never brought into politics, and you shouldn't convert anyone to your religion. That's another objection that is made under this view. Michael already has thoughts, so I'll go ahead and let him go.
I mean,
but make it try and be quick because we got a couple things to cover
All right.
before we're
If
getting
someone
up on
truly
an hour.
believes, that's not converting. They believe. Can we say that? Everybody agree?
Right. I think what the objection is trying to get at is you shouldn't try and convince anyone of
You
what you
shouldn't
believe.
forcibly do anything. You share your life experiences. You can share your viewpoints. You can share your beliefs.
Yeah, it gets
If they
into a
convert-
gray area as
now,
what
if-
is converting.
if
Am I
you-
converting you now? Or
If you are
yeah.
forcing it upon somebody, you're a piece of shit. I don't care if you're an atheist or Christian. I don't give a fuck. You're a piece of shit.
Cool.
But if you're sharing, like Bailey, sharing his life experiences, sharing his viewpoints, sharing his beliefs, that is fine. That is fair. That is good. That expands our knowledge as a human race, as a collective. Same with David. Same with me. We're all sharing our experiences and how we feel and our beliefs. That is a positive. We need to understand our fellow man to grow.
Yeah.
Now, I don't have a problem with people bringing their emotional viewpoints on issues in politics. But in this country, all men are created equal, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It does not state what God, it just states indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Therefore, unless it clicks all the notes for every religion, don't fucking do it. Don't
In the
write that
absence
fucking
of
law.
it.
I'm not going to get into specifics, but this is a free country. We have free will as humans. You can do outreach. You can try to reach people if you believe something is un-Christian-like, un-Islamic, un-Jewish, un-Hindi. You can do the outreach, but doesn't mean it's a law. Let's take drinking. Some Christians, some Islamic, some Jewish would fucking kill me for having a drink right now.
Yeah, I'm going to kill you, dude.
But
I'm just kidding.
It
It was a
doesn't-
joke. It was a
doesn't-
joke. I'm not actually going to.
yeah, he's not. He might take a shot at me after this. You never know. But that's the beauty of this country. We have freedoms, religious freedom, and that. That's why you can be an atheist. That's why you can be a Christian. It ties back to what we were talking about. Just don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Don't try to control someone else's life. You can do outreach. You can try to reach them and help them if they're doing something you view as unchristlike. But, oh God, I don't want to touch on this subject, but I might have to. All right, I'm going to touch on a subject.
All right.
Abortion.
All right.
Me and Bailey's had many discussions about this.
Uh-huh.
I respect his position.
Uh-huh.
He seems like the type of person that would do outreach, try to help people going through that versus judging them for wanting to take that action or taking that action.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, he may not believe in it, but he's not being a dick about it. He might not believe it should be justified, but he's also not persecuting against it.
Yeah.
That's the difference. If you want true freedom, if you want, say, abortion to never happen, get off your sorry ass and help some of these people who are lost, who need the help. You want drugs not be a thing? Do the outreach. Help the people who are lost. Help them fight the demons on their back. And that can go for fucking homelessness. You name it. If you don't want it to be there, do something about it. Get off your sorry fucking ass. That goes for you atheists, you Christians, you Jews, you Islamics, you Hindus, name any religion. Get off your sorry ass and do the fucking footwork. And that goes for agnostics like me too. There's more I can do to help the cause. I don't necessarily want abortions. I don't want people to be addicted to drugs, but it happens. The best I can do is reach out to them and try to help them. And that's all I'm going to say about it.
Cool. Well, Michael's had a couple rants today.
Yeah.
That was a pretty nice one.
Yeah, this episode's just going to be named Michael Rants About.
Man, I'm almost in tears over here. I'm emotional.
Oh, boy. Oh, jeez. All right. Well, I have a couple responses to this whole idea.
Yeah.
First,
also, real quick, I guess it's, as we've kind of talked about, especially with culture and stuff, unfortunately, it's basically impossible to remove religion from politics.
I was going to talk about that.
It directs how we live our life, and we want people to live the same way we live.
Dude, David gets it.
I mean, do I think that's right? No, far from it.
But at the end of the day, who is the one true judge if in any religion?
Yeah.
God. It's not our earthly decision to judge, it's our earthly decision to lead.
All right. So the whole objection comes from an inherently secular view which is biased against religious belief. What is implied is that the culture shouldn't be swayed by religious belief. But that concept is by definition self-defeating. Religions make claims on what you ought to believe and how you ought or ought not to act. Much of political lawmaking inherently deals with moral issues. By definition, religion is intrinsically a part of the public sphere and cannot be privatized. So this is kind of what David was just talking about. Yeah. At some level, you can't separate church and state. Yeah. But at the same time, like, we're trying to divorce it, but like not at the same time.
And also, it's also a more relevant thing since I probably brought this up since like the Cold War era, because Russia was big, they don't believe in God, and we're like, we're American, we're Christian. Instead of e pluribus unum, it's in God we trust it on all of our dollar bills. We say one nation under God in our Pledge of Allegiance since then. Yeah. So it's become more radicalized ever since then, and even more so now. But no matter what, it still will be a part of any society of varying people. Everyone puts their own culture and religious beliefs in how we should live our life.
Yeah, and I'm going to add one more thing. How I view it politically. We all, I'm going to say 99% of people believe in the same moral code. Don't steal, don't cheat, don't lie, don't kill. To tie it down to simplest of fucking terms for some idiots.
And some of the basics, I would say in most modern Western societies, the basics of morality is there. Yeah. But a lot of things differ.
Nuance.
When it comes to like sexual ethics or criminalization or whatever it may be. Different people have different opinions on certain things.
Like stealing.
But, you know.
In America, we believe rape is wrong. We believe stealing is wrong. We believe murder is wrong.
Right.
We believe kidnapping is wrong. We all can agree on that. Atheist, agnostic, Christian. It's the nuances that we get caught up in.
Yeah.
That we allow ourselves to fight against, but yet we allow people in power to get away with the things we believe are wrong. Instead of fighting against our common man, we should come together as a collective, stop fighting with each other over these things, accept everyone's different viewpoints on the nuances, and come to a better term and understanding of the law. Like abortion, in the grand scheme of things, very nitpicky compared to a lot of things in my viewpoint.
Yeah. And also,
Rape,
I
murder.
see it more so also as kind of, instead of dealing with the problems that cause certain issues, like, as we know, when unemployment is high, crime goes up. Instead of, say, like tackling the unemployment crisis or tackling homelessness.
We want to villainize any crime.
Or like when we've had that discussion about abortion. You and I both agree education should come first. Regardless if it... How we agree that it should cover, like, here's what happens. Here's what can happen. Here's when you make that decision to have sex and whatnot. It should all be just laid out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we should stop fighting the aftermath and start fighting the pre-existing issues, like with drug addiction, abortion, things like that.
It should be
And granted, your
preventative, not like an afterthought.
Yeah, we should and this goes to all you deep south anti-drug, anti-abortion. Stop fighting the cause. Well, stop fighting the effect. Start fighting the cause. And that's something we all need to do better. Myself, I think everyone in here can agree. We all, as a collective, need to get better at this and get a better understanding of where everyone's coming from.
Yeah.
Instead of just fighting with words.
Yeah.
And also, as we've spoken before, and we are going to do it next episode, people use religion to push their own political agenda.
Yeah.
I mean, modern conservatism is built upon
Pandering to Christians.
Well, not just the Christians, but really like the deep South Christians.
Yep.
The fire and brimstone.
Evangelicals specifically.
Yeah. Whereas a lot of modern...
Because they know you'll vote for them, because you'll never vote for a liberal if you're an evangelical Christian. You just can't do it.
Even though, like,
it's like the cardinal sin.
You might be like, oh yeah, helping the poor is good.
Yeah.
But the person who wants to do it, nah, they're liberal.
And a lot of atheists really shove radical left down your throat. I'm very radical left on a lot of issues.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't change the fact I have friends all over the political spectrum. I'm not going to separate you because you don't believe the way I do, because that's an echo chamber. Same with...
So you're not going to unfollow me because I said the thing that you disagree with?
No,
that's how people on
yeah,
Twitter
I know
are.
you, and I
if you believe this, then unfollow me.
Now,
Okay.
granted, you might.
Okay.
One of us might say some fucked up shit that we all stop hanging out and doing this podcast
You're
together.
going to clown you for it.
Yeah.
But we're going to have a conversation.
Right. We probably need to wrap this part up because we've got a couple of things to cover, and we're like an hour and 10 minutes already.
Example is like for my sociology class, we're talking about the wage disparity and how certain quintiles have more money and how we could fix that. Most people came up with about the same ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you from being in the South, most of them were Christian, they're heavily conservative, but they have the same ideas. And it's kind of funny and tragic.
The biggest devil is the man with the most power.
Yep.
Wolf in sheep's clothing.
Do your own research when it comes to politics as well as religion.
Yeah.
Education is key.
All right.
There's other things I have about this. Just, I guess, to wrap up the politics part is attempts to keep religion out of politics is, like we kind of mentioned, impossible.
Yeah.
The idea that you should keep your religious views to yourself is to diminish what religion even is. If people didn't vote on their religious convictions, what would they vote on? Their secular beliefs? This is a discriminatory belief against religious beliefs, and it's really just a sneaky way of assuming secularism is superior to religious belief, which is, you guessed it, an exclusive claim.
Yeah. And to top that, that's why we need a set of checks and balances.
Yeah, that's why
because if there's multiple people with different religions, like, oh yeah, these disagree. Let's figure out somewhere meet in the middle, or we can just kind of forget about that until we find a better way.
Yeah.
Or we can say, hey, it's not illegal, but we can do the footwork to make people not need to do that.
Yeah. All right. So if you guys want to hear us talk more about politics, let us know, because
We'll do a whole episode.
There's a couple episodes that I've got like an asterisk on. I'm like, maybe we'll talk about it. Maybe we won't. Maybe it's too topical. But we're talking about religion, so you know what? Maybe we'll talk about politics in a future point.
And
topic now.
I think we all three are very opinionated on politics.
So,
Yeah,
funny
on
enough,
some things.
we've came.
On most things, I just don't. I'm not informed on.
I mean,
to be
on
honest.
some things,
there's a couple things
we
I
also
care about.
come to about the same conclusion, just in a slightly different methodology.
Yeah, we're all human.
Right.
We all want the best for our fellow people.
Yeah. So regarding the last part on converting people, Christianity, if it is true, is good news. You should want it to be true that God himself died for you and that there is hope for an afterlife. If a Christian believes that all people will go to hell for all eternity if they reject Jesus, it would be immoral for them not to evangelize. So that's kind of what's missing here is the person making that assertion that you shouldn't evangelize or you shouldn't talk to people about your beliefs is assuming that they're already wrong from the get-go. A priori, you're just assuming that they're wrong.
What are we doing right now?
This.
Talking about our beliefs.
Yeah.
And I think the issue is, and it ties back to the radicalization of both the left and the right, politically in America, people are more likely just to shove their beliefs down your throat instead of doing what we're doing right now and having a discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Because it wouldn't, if I do end up becoming a Christian, it wouldn't feel like you necessarily converted me, but you shone a little light and you gave your experience. If I decide, maybe this God shit isn't for me, I'm not going to say David converted me. I came to that conclusion myself. Don't aim out to shove your beliefs on someone's throat and force him to do shit, because that's going to make...
Well, first of all, you can't force someone to believe anything,
Yeah.
and that's also not very loving to try and get them to sign on the dotted line like that.
To be...
Like,
remember,
if you want to
convert-
believe, like it, and this is just part of my personal philosophy, is like, if you want to believe in something, you're going to get to a certain point where you have to make it your own and you have to make it personal.
Yeah.
And if you become Christian, it needs to be your own. It doesn't need to be because I won an argument and convinced you one day.
Yeah.
It needs to be like a progressive thing that like you actually believe this because of X, Y, and Z. And you can have confidence on it and rely on X, Y, and Z when you're doubting or whatever, you know? So it needs to be a process and not just something that somebody
shoved down your
one day you happen to be emotional and then you just, made an emotional decision or something like that.
It all falls in kind of what you think of like converting to religion is, because like, for example, a lot of like Native American kids were taken away from their families and put in Christian schools basically, and forcibly, and they would get beaten if not learn to become a quote unquote Christian in some way.
Or slaves taken away from their native tongue and native religions brought to America to work as free labor. They were wrongfully converted. And also, another thing, atheists, you do the same shit.
Yeah, just by yelling, God's not real. You're wrong. You believe in
Michael,
God.
go ahead and wrap up what you're about to say, because we need to move on.
So therefore, conversion doesn't work. Honesty and intuition and research.
Well, forcefully converting doesn't work. I mean, the converting is a process of changing your beliefs.
Yeah, the how we view the word convert,
right,
is in a negative sense because of what
we think of. Oh, you just
you're going to hell.
You were hypnotized into believing something that you would have never believed.
Yeah,
that's the kind of connotation that word carries.
To tie it up, just like gay conversion therapy doesn't work, Christian conversion therapy won't work, atheist conversion therapy won't work. Forcing something down someone's throat isn't going to change their viewpoint. Be human. That's all I can say.
Well, we got Still, thing is more to cover. This is a long episode. So we're gonna talk. Basically, all religions are the same, and all paths lead to God, right?
That's bullshit. We've already spoke about that in a previous episode.
Just like I was saying earlier, you can break anything down to the simplest
Which,
terms.
by the way, guys, this is an idea called pluralism. This is something that is specifically being pushed in society today. As, it doesn't matter what you believe as long as, you're not a shitty person.
To me, in my personal sense, it matters to me what I believe. But not necessarily all paths lead to God, but it doesn't matter what you believe because I'm going to love you no matter what.
So to you, it doesn't matter what they believe, but to you, it matters what you believe.
Yeah, and that's for everybody. Don't be a fucking asshole. If this is the problem for you, you're probably an asshole. Okay?
Yeah.
And not all paths lead to God, because if that would be true, then the once saved, always saved would lead directly to God. You get baptized and you're saved forever, leads you to God. You
if all paths lead to God, it leads to no free will.
Shit your whole life and are a horrible piece of shit.
You could be a horrible...
And on your deathbed, you go, I believe in Jesus. And you go to heaven. Fuck that.
It's like playing a linear video game that allows you to make certain choices.
Osama bin Laden is going to heaven because he was a good Muslim.
And also...
And all paths lead to God.
It takes away the nuances.
Exactly.
Just like I said earlier with the car analogy, it moves you it moves you towards a destination. Doesn't mean a horse, train, and car are all the fucking same.
Right.
And I'm going to leave it simple like that because this is a long fucking episode.
Yeah.
My energy's wearing out.
And also, different religions have different beliefs on like what kind of their absolute end goal is. Some is becoming one with basically the energy of the world.
That's like saying...
and one's going to heaven.
Yeah.
Aren't Gaia. Aren't Calvinists the fucking... God, Michael, words.
Predetermination.
Predestination and...
Well, predetermined.
Double predestination, technically. Some of them are, at least.
Wouldn't them and the people who believe the world's going to just fucking be destroyed... Wouldn't they all lead to God? No, I don't fucking believe that. If you think that, you're ignorant of the nuances, and you need to do some fucking research.
Michael throwing hate against Calvinists.
I'm throwing hate against people who say this as a...
That pluralism is true.
Who say this as a retort towards religion.
Yeah.
You're ignorant. Just like the people you're talking about, you think you're ignorant, you're more ignorant.
Yeah.
Because at least they might have something to say about their belief. You can't say shit because this is your response.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty much on the same page with you guys. Obviously, I reject religious pluralism in the broad sense, because it's contradictory. How can multiple religions claim to have the truth in an objective sense when these truths are contradictory? Like I mentioned in the episode Why Christianity Over Other Religions, Christianity and Islam directly contradict themselves. One says that Jesus was God incarnate, died on a cross, and rose again 3 days later. The other says that Jesus was a prophet who never actually died and was bodily assumed into heaven. Both of these cannot be true at the same time. Only one can be true.
And the Jews killed Jesus, the King of all Jews.
I guess so.
Kind of. Like, if you believe Jesus wasn't the Savior because you're Jewish, doesn't mean if the Islamic way is right that you go to heaven. No, that's not how it fucking works.
Yeah. In the case of Christianity, religious pluralism necessarily waters down the gospel. Jesus can no longer be God incarnate. His death and resurrection are far less significant and turns far more of the Bible into a metaphor. For example, Jesus couldn't have said or literally meant that he was the way, the truth, and the life. And by extension, not just Christianity, but all religions have to be watered down in a similar sense in order for religious pluralism to be true. And go ahead.
Side note. If they all lead to heaven, what does it fucking matter to you? Seriously, if you're asking this question, I want you to think long and hard. Why does it matter?
Well, that's why people who make this objection don't care about religion generally, because in their view, it doesn't matter. So they don't try to change their views or anyone else's.
But they are finding something in themselves to hold on to help them get through their fucking life, to help them keep striving forward and hopefully towards a better end goal. Or in earthly terms.
Right.
Why are you going to fuck with them?
Yeah. I'm sorry.
I'm not going to fuck with a group of kids who are trying to better each other because I don't believe they're right. No. I'm going to let them be, and I'm going to be like, you know, you guys do you. Just like I'm not going to fucking dog Bailey for being Christian or David for being atheist, because at the end of the day, I know they're striving to be better people. So therefore, what does it fucking matter to you what someone believes? There's awful people of every religion. Or lack of religion. What does it fucking matter to you?
Yeah. The idea of religious pluralism is founded upon relativism and finding one's own, quote, truth. Which is why Doug and Michael for saying you got to believe in your truth because, you know, your truth is...
Yeah.
You know, truth,
but, you know,
truth is true, not like... I know what you mean when you say it. But it's like, it's a very popular phrase where people will say like, oh, you know, speak your truth. Well, it can't be true if it's your truth. That's literally, that's not what the definition of truth is. Truth is an objective fact.
Yeah.
When you say your truth, you're making it sound like it's all truth is subjective. And that leads us down to a rabbit hole that makes society crumble because there's no objectivity to anything.
Yeah. But at the end of it, we all have moral truths that we hold true. Yeah. Murder's wrong, rape's wrong, all that shit's wrong. We can agree on that. But belief is a very finicky thing. It's very hard to kind of pin down. And so when I say believe in your truth, if you truly believe in something in your hearts of hearts, and that's the way, the light in your salvation, do you, boo. Do you.
Yeah. Pluralism just waters down the word truth in general.
Yeah.
Now, the last piece, I'm so sorry. I'm drinking a Dr. Pepper, so I'm sorry.
Shit's bubbly and effervescent.
It's really making me happy. The last topic is Christian pluralism, which is possibly not a real term, but it's the idea that all Christians, regardless of their tradition or theology, are saved as long as they believe in the core tenets of the religion. And in this sense, I'm defining the core tenets of Christianity as Jesus existing, being born of a virgin, being God incarnate, dying on the cross for sins of mankind, and physically being risen 3 days later. So those are the what I'm defining as the core tenets.
I'd agree.
Yeah. So go ahead and say what you're going to say.
I'm going to tie this back to earthly terms.
Mm-hmm.
Does the homeless guy deserve to go to jail, or does the drug dealer who killed 12 people? Do they both deserve to go to jail?
Sorry, I zoned out. What?
All right.
I blanked out.
You're in a courtroom and you're about to get tried for some petty bullshit.
Uh-huh.
You see a homeless man who's tried his fucking hardest and been a good person.
Mm-hmm.
Does he deserve the same treatment as a dude who killed, say, 12 people?
No, probably not.
Who would you do you want if both of them died like that? And they both believe in the core tenets of Christianity. Do you believe both of them are going to heaven? One after murdering 12 people and one just for getting arrested for being homeless?
Well, if you're really being honest, I am not the judge, so I'm not gonna know. I don't know what their heart's like, so I don't know what their situation is.
One just killed 12 fucking people.
Yeah, but
Like,
I mean,
imagine-
they could be like, okay, I have serious regrets. I'm trying to change. I just, like they could. I don't know. That's just me being.
Let me specify.
All right,
Both of them were arrested
this is gonna be the longest episode.
5
ever.
minutes before they were brought to court,
That's a speedy
and they
trial.
fucking die right there.
All right.
Let's say no time to repent.
Okay. Probably not in a good situation.
Yeah. So I don't
But I'm not going to play that judge. That's just me judging and then saying that I'm not the judge.
Yeah. But me personally, as a non-Christian, I can say this.
You can be
Just because you believe in God and you believe Jesus is the son and physical embodiment of God, and you believe in all of that, you could be the most well-versed preacher. There's still a line in the cross that you might not make it. At the end of the day, there is a line in the fucking sand God puts out for you.
Yeah, I guess really what I'm trying to get at is it doesn't matter if you're necessarily, well, I'm not going to say it doesn't matter. But if you're Catholic or Orthodox or Protestant, you technically have what you need to be saved. You don't have to be. It's not like all of this group is saved and all of this group is not saved because they're not a part of that other group.
I believe
that's what I'm getting at with this question. Or
it's
topic.
hard. Okay, in that sense, it's hard for me as a non-Christian because I believe in a God that is fair and just, and I believe a lot of denominations come down to, or what's the word some of them like to use because they were pre-denomination?
Oh, tradition.
Traditions. I believe a lot of that is due to upbringing. I do believe some denominations, I'm using air quotes, people, are brainwashing people. And so I can't blame people, I can blame the higher ups. But I believe in a fair and just judgment, if there is a judgment. If there is a higher plane, I do believe in a God, so therefore that's already answered. But if you're an atheist asking this, why does it matter? If you're someone questioning Christianity, or Islam, or because there's different sectors of Islam, there's different sectors of even Judaism. Why does it matter to you if you don't believe it?
This actually isn't really an objection that atheists will bring up. It's just a thing that I thought would be interesting to discuss.
The idea of Christian pluralism lacks kind of the more nuances, as we've talked about, like once saved, always saved is an idea. Predestination's an idea within Christianity. And how you view a few of those things, and even the creation of the world, it can determine which you fall into and what way you live your life. Because a person that kind of believes more so in predetermination, I would think is more disposition to act a certain way versus a person that kind of believes they have to act on their faith every day.
Yeah, they were predestined to believe that,
Big brain move right there.
Just like I'm not going to judge a kid who was brought up in a Mormon cult for their beliefs because they don't know anything else. Just like I'm not going to judge a person raised in, say, Iraq who believes in Islam. Just like I'm not going to judge someone who believes in Christianity, specifically a Southern Baptist or Methodist. I'm not going to judge them for their beliefs based upon that, because I also believe partially it is a cultural thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know necessarily if one Christianity is right and the others are wrong. I can only assume with my earthly mind that, say, the Mormons are wrong. Because they snuck in at the last fucking moment to create a religion because some motherfucker lied. That's my personal belief. But I'm not going to judge the modern people who are raised in that, who believe that.
Right.
Because they might truly, in their hearts of heart, 100% purely believe that. Just like I'm not going to judge the Catholic who was raised in a Catholic neighborhood by a Catholic family in a Catholic country. Just like I'm not going to judge an Islamic person raised in an Islamic country by an Islamic family. Because at the end of the day, it is not my job to judge. It is my job to love my fellow man, to treat them like my equal, and do my best to understand them. And that's really all I have to say about this.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and give my thoughts on this, and then we'll wrap up the episode. So currently, and this is big air quotes because this may change, currently I accept Christian pluralism. I don't believe that one tradition exclusively is saved, though I do believe that some traditions may have a more practical / beneficial theological understanding and methods of worship than others. Some traditions may incline people to think about Christianity in the wrong way, however, such as using God as a means to an end or just to get to heaven, or water down certain depths of water down the depth of theology in certain regards.
Or lie about historical events. Mormonism.
Yeah. So the various Christian traditions are not all created equally, but they all have intrinsic value in their own way. Though I would not play, I would never want to play God and say who is and who isn't saved. So there's that aspect of it. Basically, what I'm stratifying here is there's like true or mostly true, and then like less true. You know, I'm not going to say that they're all entirely, you know, there's certain ones that are entirely wrong. Much like I would say that, you know, technically Muslims aren't entirely wrong because, you know, they believe in God. So at least they've got some percentage on that, right?
You realize...
I think doctrine is important, you know, and theology is important. And we live in a society, especially in Protestantism, modern Protestant denominations want to get rid of denominations and just not teach theology and just... But like at some point, like you have to draw a line and say, this is wrong because, you know, if everyone's right, how do you bar yourself? How do you say what's right and what's wrong? Because if you say theology and doctrine doesn't matter, you can just as easily justify Mormonism or any other religion in a pluralistic view. Anything can be right when you don't say what's wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And see,
that's kind of what like the ideas of like pluralizing like Christianity. Even though it's same kind of core tenets, it varies so much in how it's done and what the person's supposed to do with that.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, like, as long as you are believing in the core tenets and you are acting in true faith, I think you're probably on the good path. But that doesn't mean that you can't be wrong, and that doesn't mean that just believing on a cognitive sense is all that you need to do. I mean, there's all kinds of things.
Hell free card.
Yeah, no. Like, you could be a part of the most...
fucked up,
theologically correct.
Oh, going opposite of Michael.
You could be a part of the most theologically, doctrinally correct part of Christianity and still not be on the right path because it's a very personal thing to some degree.
Yeah.
Now, also, I would make exceptions for, you know, under that whole view, I would make exceptions for like Jehovah's Witnesses or Mormons. Or Unitarians, for example, because they technically consider themselves Christians, but Jehovah's Witnesses have modified the Bible to accommodate for their beliefs, when the Bible even says in multiple places, do not add or take away from it, and Mormons made the Book of Mormon, to supplement their theology. and Unitarians go against basically everything that Christians believe because they believe in the Trinity. Both of these denominations, well, all of these denominations, I view more as Christian cults, though they may not be as far from the truth as, say, a filthy atheist.
It's on a spectrum.
But
Right.
this ties back into the biggest problems with Christians, which are other Christians.
Which we'll talk about next episode.
Everyone,
Plug.
to give a long story short, everyone thinks they're right and will not accept that they're wrong. In the past, nowadays, everyone wants to think everyone's right until you hit that certain line, and then you're fucking wrong.
Yeah.
And so you got Southern Baptist, Methodist, Presbyterian. Give me some more names.
Lutheran, Calvinist, Orthodox, Catholic, Anglican, Episcopalian.
All just sucking each other's fucking cock. Oh,
No.
God's good. Yeah, fucking, I love God. Jesus, yeah, he's that man. And they won't put the line.
Actually, they do. You're just not in the circles to know about the in-house disputes that happen.
Well, in-house is in public, is in private. I'm talking about in public. Because as an outsider, it looks like everyone's all, when I see two Christians in public, God is good. I love Jesus. Yada, yada, yada. Bullshit.
When in reality, they're facing a war against each other.
When in reality, they have two very theologically different ideals of the world, the universe, and the higher power.
Yeah.
And I don't think Christians do enough. Where in the past, they might have done too much separation to create these different sectors. They don't do enough of that now. Unless it's on certain things like gay rights or abortion or drugs or
Well, the things you hear about are politicized, but there are a lot of inner disputes, which we'll discuss in future episodes.
Yeah, but as an outsider who doesn't know those things, that's how it comes off. And so it's confusing to look at the Christian sector because there are, especially in America, so many different viewpoints.
Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned that. We'll have to talk about that later.
Yeah.
Because we're wrapping up this episode, and I'm going to bring up a couple of things, and then we'll wrap it up.
Once again, with the pluralism, I love that you're not being the judge. You're leaving that up to your higher power. You have a lot of trust in him.
Yeah, I'm not... Well, I don't want to play God. That's my biggest problem with a lot of people is they want to play God.
I respect that more than you would ever fucking know.
And that's why Sims games are so popular. People love playing God.
So, last thing on this pluralism thing, which I was expecting one of you guys to bring up, but you didn't. Why do I accept Christian pluralism but reject general religious pluralism? Simply because, at the root, Christians believe the same core doctrines. Other religions do not, and often believe things that entirely are contradictory to Christianity. These contradictions cannot all be true. It is logically impossible. But under Christian pluralism, there is no contradiction over the core doctrines of the faith. And obviously, I'm still looking into this, and my current view may not be the final verdict because I'm aware there are lots of different theological views under Christianity that are contradictory, but that gets into a different rabbit hole that I'm not entirely informed about and is not really the purpose of this episode either. And I don't think some of these theological disputes are necessarily soteriologically involved. I don't think they all necessarily involve whether or not you're saved. I think a lot of them are
earthly meddling,
are just big brain theological disputes that, like, I don't know.
At the end of the day, don't fucking matter.
I mean, they do matter, but it's like it's not a primary issue.
I'm talking about salvation.
It's not. That's what I'm saying. It's like there's like the primary matters, which are the matters of salvation. Then there's the secondary matters, which are
earthly.
The nuances of things and how you practice and what you do and stuff like
that's
that.
why I brought up.
And that's the biggest issue with Christianity. As an outsider, the core beliefs may be the same, but there's so much. As someone who's more versed than your average person, there's so many nuances and things. Whereas 1,000 years ago was less nuance. It was more, this is Christianity, this is Judaism, this is...
1,000 years ago, it was pretty much just one church.
Yeah.
I mean, besides
The biggest, again, I'm going to tie this back to what I've said a million fucking times, and I know Bailey said, David said, the biggest issues with Christians are Christians.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I brought up, like, predestination stuff, where I kind of object to the pluralism of that, because I see that as a crucial issue that leads to that.
Yeah.
But I do understand where you're coming from, where the core tenets are the same, so
Yeah.
it's okay to group them in and let the person kind of figure out each individual one.
Yeah. And again, I want to specify, I do believe that there is absolute truth. So I do believe that there are certain theological views that are right and some that are wrong. But there's a lot of things that, in the end, we're still going to be wrong. And we're going to really believe with all our hearts that are true. And God's just going to have to correct some of this stuff.
He's
So
just going to laugh at you.
Because I think me and you both agree on this. We believe in a fair and just God.
yeah. Yeah. I don't think God's going to condemn someone because they got the wrong, mistaken view because other people were wrong and mistaken. That's all they interacted with. I don't think someone's going to be judged negatively for that.
Just like we don't believe a baby's going to go to hell, or we don't believe a mentally disabled person's going to go to hell.
Yeah.
And I love having these conversations, because you're not shoving it down other people's throat. You're just trying to get a better understanding for yourself and try to spread what you've learned.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I love you, bud.
Thanks, fam.
That's why I love David,
Michael.
too.
I love you, too. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you guys to give your wrapping up thoughts, and then I'm going to give up mine, and then we're going to end the longest episode of Facing the Gates podcast ever. I might have to render this in a lower quality, just so I can upload it, because Spotify has a limit. I don't think that I've ever reached that limit with previous episodes, but hopefully, listen, if most podcast platforms can hold 3.5 hour long podcasts about giants in the Bible, listen, which by the way, I did listen to that yesterday at work. It was great.
You need to send it to me.
It was way over my head. No, you got to listen to like a bunch of episodes before it builds up.
Just send me that episode.
I'll send you the whole series. Anyway,
I'll listen to it while I read that book.
Get him a
long
picture
story
book
short,
of it.
long story short is if they can hold episodes that are 3.5 hours long, I think they can hold our hour and 40-minute discussion about the exclusivity of religious belief and Michael's like 10 tangents that were all
I know
great.
Podbean can. Shout out
Hour and 20
Podbean.
Michael's tangents and 20 minutes of Bailey and I talking about stuff.
Yeah, certain platforms just have a file size limit for some reason. But anyway, go ahead and give your final thoughts on this whole
My
episode.
final thoughts are, you're not the judge, you're not the juror, you're not the executioner, and you're fucking not God. At the end of the day, your job as a fellow human is to get a better understanding of your fellow man, to love him, and to respect the good he does for this world, and to try to spread your personal experiences with them and become a better understanding. I think that's what I've learned from this episode the most, is even if there is no right or wrong, it doesn't fucking matter. We need to strive to be better. And if someone finds that through religion, without religion, I can't live in your shoes. I can only go by what truly hits my heart and what truly resonates with me and what I truly believe. To be Christ-like, to be a good atheist, to be a good agnostic, it's just be a good person. Listen. Sometimes you need to shut the fuck up and just listen. And sometimes you need to speak your truth.
Here he goes with your truth again.
Well, you know what I mean.
I know.
You need to speak your experiences, your beliefs, and form a better understanding. Stop giving these bullshit ass excuses to religion. Stop giving these bullshit ass answers to questions. And just get a better grasp of everything. Because no one can live in your shoes except you. So therefore, it is your job as your ambassador, or your religious, if you're a Christian, you're an ambassador for the whole religion at that point. every Christian is, every Jew is, every Islamic is, every atheist is, every agnostic is. Be honest, be truthful, share your experiences, and let's not be a dick. Let's just sort all this bullshit out. And if you got an issue with something politically, fight the cause, not the effect. If you got a problem theologically, discuss it, learn it, research it. Be honest with yourself. Don't bullshit yourself. At the end of the day, we're all in this fucking world. We might in our hearts of hearts believe this is our way, and we might be wrong, but we're willing to take that risk. So be willing to share your experience. That's all I gotta say.
Cool. David?
That shit came from the heart.
Yeah. This whole episode has kind of just been me and Michael going back and forth, but David's chimed in every now and then. So what's your final thoughts, David?
The main thing is, like, about the only thing you can be kind of pluralist about is, like, human nature. Because we all act in our own ways, but we act certain ways against certain situations. But, like, different cultures and stuff, they're because they're exclusive to each other, kind of just need to learn about them. And don't be a dick and don't kind of harass others just because of their situation, their culture. Learn about it and kind of be able to infer
and embrace.
Yeah. And also, I mean, that's pretty much it. And unfortunately, I mean, at least in my eyes, unfortunately, you can't separate, say, religion from politics, even though we try to, just because it's inherent to to our cultural, societal, moral codes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll probably talk more on that. At least we'll definitely talk more in a vague sense later, but if you want us to talk more specifics, let us know. Yeah. Or also just don't let us know and we'll decide on our own. And maybe we'll do it, maybe we won't.
And let me add one more note.
Okay. Oh boy.
When I say my truth, I go into detail. I explain what I mean. Don't be one of those people like, live your truth. Go into some fucking detail.
Yeah.
Put your heart on your fucking sleeve and wear it. I mean, every time I've said it, I've gone deeper and deeper and deeper into it.
Right.
When I was younger, I wouldn't, but now I wear my heart on my sleeve, and everything that happens is just an open book.
Respect.
Don't live in generalizations.
Yeah.
And that goes for everybody. If you're a Christian and you say, live your truth, stop bullshitting yourself. You're an atheist, say, live your truth, stop bullshitting yourself. I don't know what your truth is. Give me some explanations. Tell me your experiences. Tell me your beliefs. Hit me with it. I might not agree, but I can respect you. Just like you wouldn't want a preacher to brush you off or an atheist be like, oh, aren't religions the same? Don't be that person. Go into specifics if someone really wants to know.
Yeah.
Because I've realized that as we've got deeper in these episodes, when I say that, I know what I mean, but others might not. So I've tried to go deeper into detail.
Gotcha.
Go into those details.
Yeah.
So these questions have no relevance.
Yeah. Cool. Well, my wrapping up thoughts are as follows. By definition, any group has to make an exclusive claim. That is how you identify that group. White people are defined by what they are not. Liberals are defined by what they are not. And similarly, Christians too are defined, at least in part, by what they are not. Every group must have boundaries to determine what they are and what they are not. In my opinion, the fact that Christianity makes exclusive claims isn't a very well thought out objection. And as we've talked about the whole episode, it does nothing to interact with whether or not it is true. It's just a red herring objection that doesn't really interact. It's just a write-off.
It's
an excuse to not think.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like with like the elephant thing. Like, to me, it was more, so I saw it more so talking shit about people that actually don't do research into their own religion and just go off what they
I just had a thought.
Oh, no. Go ahead.
if we as a collective body came together and shared our experiences and our thoughts, we'd have a better understanding of each other and the world around us, right?
We might end up having a whole elephant.
And if those 4 blind men, I want to say it was 4.
Yeah, well, there's a lot more, but go ahead.
If all those blind men came together and they were able to realize where each other was on the elephant, wouldn't they be able to kind of put together the elephant? We are all the blind men. It is our job to reach out to each other, to get a better understanding of each other. We might not be able to get a greater understanding of theological or religious ideals together, but we can come together more a whole and understand the elephant that is our world and our earthly beings.
Yeah.
Which can lead us to better theological and religious.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but the problem is you're playing into the whole what the whole analogy is trying to get at is that different religions have different pieces to the whole truth, and you need to put them all together to figure it all out.
But what I mean with it, to go into more detail, is we might not believe exactly what each other are saying, but we can understand where each other are coming from.
Right.
And in that, we can lead each other and explain what we believe as true and as whole.
Yeah.
And instead of fighting with each other, we can create a better environment for all of us to live in and spread our message through.
Gotcha. Well, on that note, I think it's time to end the longest episode ever. Sorry if I kept being like, hey, we need to move on.
But it's
we had a lot to cover.
2 fucking hours.
It's been a long time.
You've listened to the rest of the episodes. You know how Michael can get.
Yeah, Michael gets passionate.
I'm an emotional
sometimes.
mess.
we need
but
we need like a neon sign that says hurry up.
It's been I just need to just do like hand motions and be like, wrap it up.
I won't pay attention when I get it.
Anytime I'm nervously glancing at the screen, it's because I'm looking at how long the episode has
I'm
been.
looking for both of you guys.
You gotta edit.
Yeah, and I'm just like,
and how much I gotta render out.
Yeah, anyway, comment, subscribe if you're on the YubTubs.
Follow us on Instagram.
And Twitter and Facebook.
It's been real.
Review us if you can do that. Because the reason we constantly are like, give us reviews, it helps our show be seen by other people.
Better analytics.
If you like our show and you want other people to listen to it, giving it a review really helps the visibility.
On YouTube, thumbs up or thumbs down. I don't care which one. They both help.
YouTube, subscribe, comment. A comment really helps with the algorithm. Anything you can do just to get us out there. Share it with a friend.
Family.
If you care about this at all.
Share it with your church.
If you are at this point in the episode, you obviously care about the episode.
Post it on Reddit.
So share it with somebody. Put it on Reddit, but Reddit, whatever. Anyway, actually Reddit helped me take apart my mouse, so I can't really talk too much shit.
Yeah. So, share it with everybody you fucking know.
Maybe not 4chan though.
Don't shove it down their throat, but just share it.
It's been real.
It's been fun.
It's been real fun.
Love you guys.
See you later next week on the Facing the Gates podcast. Love you.
We talk about the problem of Christians. Dun dun dun.